Well, since we're all waiting, in case you haven't had a chance to look around, let me kind of show you what you're looking at. So this is the native seed mix here. That's a sampling of it. It is now, and so you'll hear more about it. This is Bermuda grass, which is, and this again is all native grass. Bermuda grass is actually a non-native grass, but heavily used. Some of what you see around here is oh, well, yeah, I'll just stand here so you can. Yeah, well, oh. Can I take it off without getting in trouble? Okay, okay. Thank you, Commissioner. So this is the native seed mix. This is Bermuda. This is St. Augustine, which I suspect a lot of you have in your front yards or backyards, or you certainly are very familiar with it. Again, look at the root line differences compared to the native seed mix. And that's one of the things we're going to be emphasizing today with the press conference. And then this is 3 weeks of growth of some of the native seed mix species that you're going to hear about today. So just after 3 weeks of growth, this is what it looks like, which is fun. It's not the kind of, and that's why we're talking about seeds, because it's not like here where you can go to maybe a local garden center and just pick up a plat of it. You can't do that with our native seeds. And here, as you all might know, if you've driven along a highway, sometimes you'll see where it's sprayed on. You can do that with Bermuda, but you can't do that with our native seeds. But look how fast in 3 weeks stuff starts to happen. So that's very exciting. And then over here are some posters that are kind of fun. You all recognize this. This is our region. We're going to be talking about how this is a Southeast Texas regional native seed mix. There are other, and you're going to hear a little bit about this from Texas Native Seed. There are other regions in Texas that all have different native seed mixes, but this is the one for our region, and this is generally our region. So that's what we're showing there. And then this is an example of how you do it. How do you put native seed mix in your yard or big landscape area, depending on what you're looking at? And the same, so that's a little bit here about what that's about, and then over here is kind of the step-by-step process. And this gives you a little idea, again, from a pictorial of that same thing I showed you here in these big bins of particularly roots. Roots are a big deal in this process because they help erosion control and they help absorb water and other very important things, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what you're looking at. You ready to start? Yes. Okay, that's great. So I'm Deborah January Beavers. I'm president of Houston Wilderness. Thank you so much for coming out today. We are super excited about this point. There has been a discussion for as long as I've been involved, which I'd say was probably about 1999 in environmental policy issues in our region. There's been discussion about the need for a regional native seed mix and the fact that we didn't have one. And so that's a long time that we've been talking about it. Then we had, I guess to use the catchphrase need for seed, that's the situation that we have here. And we've had it for a long time. And we've been talking about it. It's not like that folks didn't think it was important. We've always thought it was important for a long time. It's just, it's not an easy process to come up with that native seed mix. And I will also mention that other regions got ahead of us in Texas on this. And in fact, there were only two, as of 2.5 years ago, there were only 2 regions left in Texas that did not have a native seed mix, and ours was one of them. But now we do. So the last one is Deep East Texas, and they'll have to do what they can to sort of finish up and get all of Texas with a native seed mix. And when I'm saying native seed mix, the difference is, you might be thinking, well, do you mean a restored prairie? It is not that. It is native grasses that you might find, and you probably would find in prairie in our area. But the difference is that this particular mix is a mix that you can put in a contract spec, that you can do at large scale and be able to do things like mow it. And it comes up quickly, which I mentioned in the bin on the far end there. And so it's something that a contractor could guarantee if you put it into a bid spec and you wanted to have them guarantee that it would grow and that you would have something akin to a large green area that, again, could be maintained regularly in different ways at different heights. And so it could work at that large scale. Then after Hurricane Harvey and all that rain hit our area, and you all might remember the photos, and there's one on this poster of all that sediment and silt that went flying down all of our different waterways, bayous, and creeks, and created huge mounds at the end of the different bayous and into Galveston Bay, and in fact shut down the port for 2 weeks to try to get a lot of that stuff out. Well, there were a lot of reasons for that, and it couldn't all have been avoided. That was a lot of rain. But what would have helped tremendously is if we had not had so much of this non-native grass along the riparian corridors and other areas, but if we had had a native seed mix in place that had those stronger roots, that allows for the ecosystem services associated with water absorption, air quality absorption, water quality for that matter is important, and then also holding that soil and keeping it from all flying downstream during flood events, which is so important for our region. I want to do a couple shout outs of thanks. Commissioner Ellis, thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this media event here today, and also for your involvement and support of the Native Seed Mix project. We're excited about that. The other thing I want to point out is there is a coalition. You're going to see the term Ransom Coalition is the acronym for Regional Access to Native Seed Mix. That is a coalition that came together once we had an idea of what that native seed mix was going to be. Then there was a recognition based upon some things that created their native seed mixes, was that the Texas native seed growers, some of which are here today, and we appreciate that, and the big buyers in the work who have wanted this native seed mix for a long time, it's very critical that the native seed mix growers and the buyers can work together, because not all the seeds are available right away. And you're going to hear a little bit more about that from our other speakers. But that Ransom Coalition for our region has come together now. It's a strong group made up of every big buyer in the region. And again, I appreciate those that came out today, and all the work that you all are doing to help. And then the last thing I just want to mention is how grateful Houston Wilderness is for the partnership with Harris County Flood Control District, who has really been the leader in making this happen for us to help us get to where we are today. So I really appreciate that, and you're going to hear more about that from Dr. Peterson, but I just wanted to say thank you to you all, and then also to Texas Native Seed with A&M Kingsville, who has also been instrumental and a big critical partner, certainly in the science piece of all this, and you're going to hear from him as well. So let me go ahead and turn it over to Commissioner Ellis and let you say a little bit about your support and involvement in the sort of the future use and demonstration areas for the Texas Native Seed Project.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. You are at the Adair Park. Tom Bass Park is right across the street. This may not have been the first, but it was one of our early detention or retention projects that turned into a park. Commissioner Tom Bass, who represented Precinct 1, had the vision to do this and started this project before he left office. And he was a very generous guy, former state rep, ran for Congress, and then was a county commissioner, and wanted to and they named that park after him. He wanted to create a seat that a African-American could win. It was El Franco Lee. Then Franco named it after him. This is Adair Park on this side. That's the William Lawson detention, William and Audrey Lawson Pond on the other side. But we're glad to have you out here. CEO Deborah January Beavers, and thank you for educating me so much. I was asking Dr. Peterson, I was out bike riding with the county judge in Harris County, and then we ended up in Waller County. Did about 60 miles, only because I'm a little older than her, and I would not give up. And every time she'd say, are you okay, Commissioner Ellis? And I said, I'm fine. I did want to remind them I'm almost 40 years older. But I saw this one out there. This one, I used to call that a cuckle-bug. That's what I was asking you when I was a kid, and it is very beautiful. But when it gets kind of hard and it sticks in your socks, it encourages you. I'm glad to learn so much about what you're doing. I'm glad that Dr. Tony Falk is here. Dr. Peterson is going to speak later. Nicholas DeMall, Lauren Hopkins from the City of Houston Health Department. I know Gene Wu is coming, but thank you for coming to this park in Precinct 1. And I appreciate my staff and all that they are teaching me. And I was so happy to get this little bag of seed mixes. And I was joking with my staff when they had me out touring some of these projects, and I was calling them weeds mistakenly. And my staff told me, no, they're not weeds. So I was joking with one of my staffers who made a great discovery in another part of our precinct that I was behind his back calling him my perfect weed man. He said, just make sure you know it's the kind of weeds we want. He was saying, so be careful when you say that. This is good seed mix. I'm immensely proud to host the Southeast Texas Native Seed Mix Project demonstration at, as I said, the William and Audrey Lawson Park and Stormwater Basin here in Harris County Precinct 1. I want to thank the Harris County Wilderness CEO, Deborah, for having it here, for her leadership on this critical project and continued partnership throughout my precinct and with the other commissioners in the county. In Harris County, we're committed to investing to build more resilient communities and protect our neighborhoods from flooding. And we'll talk a little later about the specific investment we've made so far, and I'm hoping we're going to make a lot more. This basin is part of that vision. In Harris County, we invest in innovative, evidence-based solutions based on science and data. We're building floating wetlands and investing in technology to improve our flood warning system to ensure families know the actual flood risk. We discovered the remnant Almeda Prairie simply by reducing mowing frequency in areas with limited park public use. And we hope to turn that into a park. And if we find an environmentally creative way, we can put in trails so people can go in and not damage the environment, but enjoy it and learn from it. We'll do that. That is a 15-acre habitat restoration project that is being planned at the Almeda School Road Park. This partnership with Houston Wilderness is another part of that strategy. The Native Seed Program will yield grasses and root systems that promote water conservation and mitigate erosion, among other significant benefits. It's part of our shared vision that promotes sustainability in the face of a growing climate crisis. This past January, Harris County approved its first ever internal climate action plan to reduce carbon emissions from Harris County operations by 40% by the year 2030. Now we're working to develop a community-focused climate action plan to protect and empower communities that are most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change and environmental injustice. We will be the first county in the entire state of Texas out of 254 counties to do this. And it's part of a broader commitment to equity and resilience for everyone. I'm proud of the partnership that we're launching today and excited about our continued effort to build a greener, more resilient future for Harris County. So I want to thank you for coming out here. And I think before we go to Q&A, the next one I'm bringing up is Dr. Falk, Director of Texas Seed Programs. Doctor.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Tony Falk. I am the Dan L. Duncan Director for the Texas Native Seeds Program, which is a research program underneath the Cesar Claiborne Wildlife Research Institute at Texas A&M Kingsville. Our Texas Native Seeds mission is to develop and promote native species for use on private and public land. One of the ways that we can do that is through our partnerships with the USDA Plant Material Centers, the wonderful folks here with the Harris County Flood Control District. I cannot say enough about what the Flood Control District has done to help promote native species and being willing to step out and change the way that they're doing things and getting away from using a lot of these non-native species. So the science into deciding which species that we're going to use in projects like this starts with on-the-ground research. What we were able to do through our collaboration is to go out and plant individual plots of each of these different species in detention basins in the county. From that, we were able to look at those and make decisions on which species perform the best and work with commercial growers to say, okay, these are the species we want to use. These are the species that are going to fit for this specific area. We also take that and look and fill in the holes for areas that do not work well. One of the things that I really want to stress is that this is a starting point. We've got 12 species right now, several of which are commercially available, a handful more that are still in the development process. So we can get this process started, but and will make for great use in areas that are low mow or non-mow areas in the region. Again, I just want to thank you.
My name is Tina Peterson. I am the Executive Director at Harris County Flood Control District. And it is a lovely day to be out here at a Precinct 1 park. I wanted to take a moment to share some about the Flood Control District and a little bit about this project and where we're at and where we see this going. The Flood Control District has a mission to build and maintain flood risk reduction projects. That is the core of what we do. We're responsible for infrastructure related to all of the channels in Harris County, more than 2,500 miles of channels, 22,000 acres of property, and more than 250 stormwater detention basins. We're also in the middle of a major capital program that is funded by the voters who voted for a flood control bond in 2018. We have $2.5 billion that we are using to invest in flood mitigation efforts. So with all of this infrastructure and all of these projects that are underway, we have a lot of work that we are doing. And a lot of times that work involves revegetation, reestablishing turf. In fact, in the last year, we've reestablished turf on more than 400 acres. And since the 2018 bond program started, we've reestablished turf in more than 3,000 acres. So we do a lot of this work. And I really want to give recognition to my infrastructure division team, who really was instrumental in seeing the opportunity and seeing the opportunity for innovation. We're actually using innovation dollars from our bond program to advance this work. And so I'm very thankful that there was this idea that was taken and moved forward so that we could be here today. So we know that native seeds and native plants really create an opportunity to create habitat and restore our ecosystems. We also have an opportunity to, in areas where the native seeds will be useful and where we can have native grasses, to be able to reduce our maintenance if we can reduce the amount of mowing that we have to do. But there are challenges, and Dr. Falk really talked about some of them. This is not something that we can do overnight. We know that, first of all, we have to identify what are those locally adapted species. We did not have those, and we're still in the process of building those, thanks to our partners at Texas A&M Kingville and Houston Wilderness. But we also know that we really have to do a good job of understanding where and how these seeds can be leveraged. Because again, these are things that we have not explored, and are we right now? We are in the middle of a 3-year effort, or 5-year effort. We're in year 3. So far, as Dr. Falk talked about, we have tested multiple species, and we've got 12 that we think show really strong potential for use in our projects. We have 2 test plots that are already in place. We're looking to do 2 more, and we have a contract in place to procure 6 of the 12 species that have been identified. So again, we're really excited to see this progress. From where we started to where we are now, it's tremendous that we have now an opportunity to have seeds. As Commissioner Ellis was talking, we have seeds in our hand, but we also have a long way to go on this pilot study. And we're looking forward to continuing this work. And, you know, as Commissioner Ellis said, really in Harris County, our vision and the flood control vision is to move forward in a more resilient manner for Harris County. And this is just one of several things that we're. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Dr. Hopkins.
From the City of Houston Health Department, and I'm the Chief Environmental Science Officer for the city. And I'm here today just to kind of provide my comments on why the Houston Health Department is so excited about the native seed mix. It's really simple. We expect this native grass mix to improve the health of Houston and Harris County. You've already heard about flooding, but I want to point out a couple of things that might not have clicked with you yet. There's a distinct connection between the environment and health. And as we saw this past summer, people suffering from heat, extreme heat, and through flooding, droughts. But the thing that you might not really recognize is how important this native seed mix is to air pollution with particulate matter. The second one has to do with aeroallergens or pollen. And the third one has to do with hazardous air pollutants and ozone formation. So believe it or not, this native seed mix is really key for all three of those. In the first case, particulate matter air pollution, if you can think about what happens during drought and we have these non-native grasses that don't have the big root structure that that was talked about earlier in this conference, is that they will die off. And when they die off, what we have is wind-blown dust matter, and that is a huge component of particulate matter. And particulate matter is actually deadly. It can exacerbate asthma, and in Houston, it's been linked to cardiac arrest and stroke. So this is a very big deal, and we are actually bumping up against the National Ambient Air Quality Standard for being out of attainment for particulate matter. So this is a very key thing, especially if we can talk about flood control, large areas being planted, and really big reductions. So exposure to particulate matter could be reduced if we can actually get this program going and really adopt it and put it out there. It can be an intervention that we're looking for. It's the kind of ecosystem service that everybody can get behind. The next one is that native grasses, according to a study done by UT Health Center, the aeroallergens are the allergic pollens that are the biggest contributor to exacerbation of asthma here in Houston come from thank you. So the allergic pollens come from the non-native grasses. The actual list of the worst allergic pollens for asthmatic people with asthma here in Houston are all actually non-native grasses. So that would be a huge benefit to Houstonians and the county. And the last one is, as Dr. Peterson mentioned, the idea of low mow or no mow. So as we move towards that, which will obviously something that, you know, financially we need to do, but for the environment we need to do, because the mower concerns, high rates of cancer, concerns about exposure to hazardous air pollutants here in Houston. And there was a recent study that was put out in the end of October that says from gas-powered lawn equipment. So that is a substantial concern that that this could potentially remedy, or at least work on remedying. In addition, these hazardous air pollutants are precursors to ozone, and I think we're all familiar with ozone pollution, and that we are out of attainment for the ozone standard, the national standard for ozone. So those are the three reasons why the Houston Health Department is very excited about native seed mixes and the use of it here in Houston. You're next. All right, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Nicholas Stamel. I'm a reclamation specialist with Bamert Seed Company. From a seed production perspective, this is a victory for Houston, Harris County, and the surrounding southeast and Gulf area. Bamert Seed Company is excited to join the Ransom Coalition. We stand ready today to supply several different seeds that are already available, and we look forward to others becoming available soon. We have several that are already available for this special blend, and we look forward to helping in the future as well. This works well for growers as well as consumers, and it benefits the land that we all work, live, and play on. I'd call that a win-win.
Good morning. My name is Gene Wu. I'm the state representative from House District 137, which is nowhere near here, right? And so you're like, this is, and earlier Commissioner Ellis was here. This is obvious. This is his district. So like, what is what is the guy, state rep from far away doing here? Conference wrong. I know that's a weird thing to say, but you don't understand how much of a nerd I am about this. This is amazing. Rodney's just a guy who enjoys the great outdoors. I actually am the guy who goes and plants all this stuff. You ever come to my house, I'm kind of known for, like, among elected officials, I'm the guy who with like the all native front yard. I don't have grass anywhere. I just have like my backyard, it's all frog fruit on the ground. Didn't have to water it one time, right? This whole summer. And I have stuff everywhere. And throughout this process, and we built our house like 3 years ago, and we decided to convert our front yard to all this stuff and do all these great things. And like in that time, my kids have held a newly hatched monarch butterfly in their hands and released it. They've fed hummingbirds. They've watched bees go around getting honey and nectar from flowers. They now know the difference between green anoles and the brown anoles, right? And we taught them biology. We taught them science. We taught them chemistry. Taught them all these great things. And in the last 3 years, right? And our yard feels happy. It feels healthy. It feels energetic. You go outside and there's life everywhere. And that's what we want for everyone else. And this has been a long, crazy journey. And we did a lot of stuff. But I'll tell you this. One thing that I did not expect along this entire journey of learning about native plants, putting them in the ground, caring for them, was that I would be fighting a delicate plant. It's kind of nerdy. Like the instructions say, you can't have more than 6 hours of sun in a yard. It's just getting everywhere. And like, oh, that's some nice salvia you got there. No, dad jokes aside, like all the speakers have said, this is an incredible first step. Because more and more we are coming to this realization as lawmakers, as policymakers, we're coming to this realization that our environment actually matters, that climate change is real, and the effects going forward. So thank y'all so much. Let's keep this going. I'm looking forward to the one day when we will go out into the community and we will be telling people, put these in your yards, right? And notice there's no inland sea oats in there. Okay. And so I'll leave you this one last thing. It's the only thing I remember from scouting. And that is, no matter what you do, where you go, leave everything better than when you found it.
Okay, so if I don't want to put the Ransom folks on the spot exactly, but as I mentioned, is made up of what I call the big buyers in the region. Really, they're the big planters in the region, governmental, nonprofit, corporations, landscape architects, the big developers, et cetera, that really want to start really converting at scale to the native seed mix. And then the other part of the Ransom Coalition invited all the native seed growers to come down and see one of the demonstration areas that Dr. Peterson mentioned, and they all showed up. We have this fabulous picture of all of them there, but it was critical because then they could tell us what they need and what they don't. But if you're with the Ransom Coalition, would you mind this work? So thank you very much. So any Q&A real quick before then we'll just let, there's lots of folks here that can answer questions related to all parts of all this. Yeah, Tricia. That is correct. Do you want to, Dr. Falk, do you want to talk a little bit about how that'll, I'm sorry, is that kind of your question?
So the way we started that process of trying to identify which species are going to work in these specific areas is to take what's already commercially available and test those. Those are those species that you can buy right now. While we started that process at the same time, we're working at developing new locally adapted species. And so those are the additional 6 species that are on that current 12 species list. Timelines on those are going to be as quick as maybe 1 to 2 years on some of those species that are further along. Others are probably going to be in that 3 to 4 year time span before we can get all 12 of those commercially available at scale. So that was one of the huge concerns with the flood control district because they have the same thing. They need instant cover. And by using the specific varieties that we've tested, we can get that instant cover as long as it rains. We can't make it rain, but as long as we get moisture, the stuff that we've tested has gotten that cover as early as 30 days. There's been a handful of kind of white publications that we've been able to put out to really demonstrate that data. You want to give me your email address and I can definitely send that to you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, no, that was the true goal, is to come in against Bermuda grass and demonstrate without a doubt that we can plant an all native mix, get away from the non-natives and achieve the same cover without having to use any of that native stuff. And that's what we've been able to do so far.
Currently commercially available, so the 6 seed in 3 weeks time. That gives you a little bit of an idea. They're on here if you want. So this little seed packet, which there's enough for everyone, so we'll keep putting some out. This is the stuff that we put out here, but we have more, right, Carrie? Yeah. Okay. So the asterisk ones are the ones in the packet, and they're the ones currently commercially available. And I do want a quick shout out that it was Bamert Seed Company and Roundstone Native Seed, 2 of the Texas native seed growers that provided this seed to us, which we appreciate. Those native seed growers are working and have been very supportive to help us have those within hopefully the next couple years.
So I'm Tina Peterson with the Flood Control District. So we have spent thus far about $600,000 for 3 years of this study. And the funding came from the 2018 Flood Control Bond Program. We have some dollars set aside for innovation opportunities and looking for ways to do more innovative work. And that was the funding source that we used for this project.
1 or 2 more? Yeah, kind of both, but yeah. It's doing great, yeah.
To not get into too much of that, but all of these are blends of different populations from throughout different regions. All of them have particularly from species to species. But I can tell you that, you know, one of the knotroot bristlegrass has a population that originates from Harris County. The coastal plains little bluestem has a population that originates from Harris County. Those are the two that the Guadalupe germplasm white tridents has a population that is, I think that's Walker County. So we have populations in each of those that are local to the Harris County region, and that's what really makes them successful.
I think that'll wrap it up. If to connect you to anybody that you particularly want or more about what Flood Control District or others are doing, just let us know. We'll connect you to the right person. Thank you again so much for coming out. Again, please get some of these. We'll put some more out for you all. And then these are the 12 species here. You may have seen those signs as you came in, the same ones. That's because that's the area Commissioner Ellis mentioned where they're going to be doing it.
Seed lovers.
That's right.